it in my drawer. Let's just go continue. Okay.
Coolio. Okay, we are now live. We are live and we are well.
So put on your big smile.
Yeah, and it's Friday and it's warmer.
In Johannesburg, not in Cape Town. Well, it is warmer than yesterday, but it's freezing here.
Oh goodness. Okay, well, I'm totally excited because it's much warmer here. So anyway, welcome to the Marketing Lifeline's Friendly Friday, where we have like-minded people sharing alike in conversation with interesting topics in both business and marketing every Friday. And today I'm joined by Steve Levy from Dare to Be Coaching. So thanks, Steve, for joining us.
Oh, Megan, thank you so much first of all, thank you for inviting me and inviting me off one of my posts, which you chose as the topic. So I really chuffed about that and I feel honored. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're honored to have you. And yeah, talking a bit about that, it was a reflection post. So I've thrown a whole lot of weird questions at Steven today. So I'm quite excited to see what he has to share with us. But we're going to be looking at a bit about mindset, perception, and kind of taking back control all in one. So I think it's a good session for us entrepreneurs feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment in the market. So thanks again to you, and I look forward to what you have to share with us. So let's just do a short bio, which never really does justice, but just a bit of a background. So Steven's kind of intro starts with leaders and those they lead hold the key to success of any organization in today's highly competitive markets. When these leaders unleash team potential and develop high-performing teams, together they become powerful and the organization's most competitive advantage. So Steven has since 2018 to date successfully worked with leaders globally who are committed to leading lead change, unleashing team potential, and igniting growth, which has affirmed Steven's no one-size-fits-all coacher journey, not a program approach. He thrives on navigating through complexity, and his ability to see the full picture allows him to work with his clients where together they tailor the process, aligning behavior to strategy, optimizing available resource to effectively achieve their desired outcomes. Awesome. I love that story, and thanks so much. It was difficult for me to capture everything you do, but I think the most important thing for me is as you've summed it up, giving you the most competitive advantage by empowering the individuals, and I think often that is something we tend to forget about, no matter how big or small our organization. So let's start with you, Steve. I'm going to jump between Steven, so whichever one
That's
comes
fine.
out, it's Casual Friday, so all good. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Dare to Be's purpose.
Okay, so Megan, thanks for that introduction. And leadership is close to my heart because of the influence it has on those that lead and the impact. Firstly, before all that, I'm a husband of a most amazing lady, father of 2 incredible children, and my son-in-law, I include him in that, and grandfather of a really adorable little 1-year-old grandson. Oh, wow. And something I'm so blessed with and wouldn't change this for anything in the world. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I'm of the firm belief that each and every person has something unique to offer the world. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my own personal purpose because it does lead into Dare to Be's purpose. So my own personal purpose, because of my belief, is it's really to inspire people to respect each other in their differences so that they feel safe to dare to be the best versions of themselves and proud to show up as who they are. A journey that I actually went through in 2014, a deep journey. So it's not easy, but this is what really came out of it. And that kind of leads me to my purpose, the purpose of Dare to Be, and why does Dare to Be exist? So the purpose is really to guide and support leaders who are 100% committed to unleashing team potential of those they lead, and where together, and the emphasis is on the word together, they can create the highest probability of achieving, or maybe even exceeding, their desired outcomes. So a little bit about what informs me of my coaching is I did study for coaching for 2 years, but it's really my own life's journey. And that's mostly inspired by my sporting background. And I took a lot out of sport into business because it came more from my sporting background than my academic background.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for sport, I probably wouldn't have been at school. So that does span some 35 years, where I was really privileged to, in the corporate world and in my own businesses, to be exposed to leaders and leadership, and I learned a hell of a lot. So it really included, Megan, it really included the real life experiences in business. Again, both in the corporate and the business, my own businesses. Were they tough? Yeah, sure. Were they expensive? Sure. Did some fail? Sure. Were there some successful? Yes, I'm happy to say. But from all of them, I brought with me such rewarding lessons, and it taught me so much. And that, coupled with my belief and purpose, is really that's the background of my coaching. So I really coach, I step into your real journey, and how can we get to achieve what you want to. It's not out of a textbook, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yes, I do
I think
research.
that's, unfortunately, that is a bit of a perception about coaching. I think we won't mention the exact franchise, but that unfortunately has created that perception that the same approach is applied to every business, which doesn't work, does it?
But Megan, I mean, it's whatever. I don't know which one you're referring to, but and we won't obviously bring that up. But I think there's a place for everybody in the business world, because business is really built around relationships. I can give you my blueprint to coach. There's some people that will coach with you and some with me, and you won't coach it the same as me, and that's why you will attract different people.
Okay, so let's get on to some of the exciting stuff as well. I mean, obviously, we want to excite the listeners with some of your insights and your passion, which you've obviously just shared. And I love the fact that it was built on a sports journey as well. I'm totally in love with the Olympics at the moment. If I had DSTV, even better, I could watch it all day, but I have to watch the highlights on SABC. But it doesn't matter which country I'm there, I'm loving it. And I'm just like, sometimes I think to myself, I wish I could have made it to the Olympics. But anyway, and I said to my husband, I think it's because I never coached. I was never coached. And I think that's the reality, is if you want to do well in your business, you have to be coached. If you want to do well in sport, you actually have to be coached. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to chat a bit about this fast-paced world that we're obviously finding ourselves in today. Yes. And how this has really impacted us as people. And I'd like you just to share what you think is maybe also been one of the biggest impacts on businesses and people as humans.
Okay, I think I'm going to fast forward a little bit in this fast-paced world, because I don't think it's just hit us now. But the reason that I'm going to fast forward that a bit is because I'm going to start with on the positive. I mean, I think the fast-paced world, it has tested us. It's tested us really intensely. But I think the positive impact of what we've experienced, say from March 2020, last year, because you've got this fast-paced world coupled with this whole COVID environment. And again, with all due respect to anybody who has suffered in the hands of COVID, I think what I'm seeing in business is it brought people closer together. And I'm seeing people, leaders, specific leaders, and when I say leaders, your listener to just understand I'm referring to business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders in corporate, because they are all leaders. So I'm seeing people like just recognizing the value of people in their business. And that for me is so exciting. And there's more narrative and discussion around that, certainly amongst the leaders that I'm working with. both locally and globally. So it's no different, because this pandemic has hit us globally, and it's really a wonderful thing to witness. So I think on the positive side, it's really awesome. I think if you refer to the fast-paced world, it's created, and this is from probably the introduction of the internet, which I don't think really goes that far back, probably to the early 90s, is it's created I can have it now kind of culture. And that leads to no boundaries in general. It's a culture for creating expectations of I want it now and I can have it now. And I'm not blaming people, because if you look at, certainly, I know we refer to them as the millennials, but millennials, and within that age group, people that came into this world in the internet, that it's expected for them to have that, because they have access to anything they want straight away. So I think that where they've got to just be careful and manage that is to where we go to the no boundaries. So, I can text you at any time of the day, and whether I'm expecting an answer at 10 o'clock at night, whether or not myself as the recipient feels that I need to answer immediately. And I think it will take, the impact of this is, especially if you do not have discipline to set boundaries, is a culture of distraction, and you're also taking away your work-life balance. So, how do you, and it's something one really needs. I think the other thing that stands out for me is where I think people are having difficulty is we're experiencing incredible information overload. And whilst the internet has provided super quick access of information, if it's used without purpose, it can again lead to distraction and misinterpretation of information, which creates overwhelm. And this is not the first time we're experiencing change. I just think it's got more intense and faster, as you said. The world is just moving at a pace that's very difficult for us to keep up with. But if you look at the kind of old theory of evolution by Charles Darwin, this is where we as leaders need to become really adaptable and a little bit more agile. Because, his theory was it's not the strongest or the most intelligent that will survive, but it's those that can best adapt to change. I think those were the correct words. And it's so true in the world we're facing right now. So I think that's the impact that change is having on us, is how do we adapt to this change? And it's going to call on leaders can't do it on their own. It's going to call on teamwork. And that's why I'm so adamant about inclusivity. The leaders are part of their team, and everybody's position is equally important. The responsibilities are different. And for the leaders to carry out their responsibilities in this fast-paced world, they really need to have a team that supports that.
Yeah, I resonate to the kind of no boundaries very much. I think that's, as we know, WhatsApp has become the new inbox. And like you say,
Yes.
One just needs to set boundaries with clients, that maybe expect immediate responses. Also, because it's that instant gratification. I typically have it in my business as well. And as I even said to some people this week, it is that time to reinvent ourselves, because unfortunately we do have to keep moving as fast as the world is moving. We have to, but as you say, it's we need to be agile. We can't kind of sit back and go, well, this is too much for me, I can't keep up. But kind of got to pick your wins and go with those, because I think otherwise we also would be completely overwhelmed, because as you say, there's the information overload. Yeah, it's a hectic time, actually. I would love to have kind of engaged with somebody 50, 40 years ago, what a regular day in the life was. And that's why I can't wait to get to question 5, because I know that's what I want to experience. So let's hop on, and thanks for those awesome insights. And I think, sure, it actually makes me just feel quite overwhelmed, and that is the reality of it. Can't go anywhere without having information.
We can manage it. We have to figure out what's urgent and what's important.
Not,
You know,
So,
everything's urgent, not everything's important.
yeah. So people tell me, and this is often what I hear people saying, and in fact, just this week as well, people tell me all the time they don't have time to plan in their business, or they don't make time, you know, whichever one it is. But yet we know businesses are built on planning, you know. So what is your take on this, and what would you say?
Wow, that's such an awesome question, and it's so relative to your previous one. So I love it because, yeah, I get that a lot. So people want to make change. We have to change, as you quite correctly mentioned, in this world that we're living in now. And I often ask why there's a difference between wanting to make change and then committing to do what it takes to make change. Okay, so
True. Saying
I
and
think
doing.
sorry,
It's like saying and doing.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I think the first part of your question, I think you said that they don't have time to plan
Time,
their
yeah.
business.
People say
Yeah.
they don't have time to plan, but yet we need the
Okay. So
planning
there
to
might be
succeed.
some people that are going to shoot me down for this, but I believe that's a myth. Without planning or putting a strategy into what you do would be a disaster, because what do you measure yourself against? And that's how they started their businesses. I hope they did, with some form of plan, no matter how detailed or not. There was a guideline, there was a framework, there was a strategy. And if you've got nothing to measure yourself against, how do you improve? And if you don't improve, how do you grow? And I can go on and on.
Mm.
So if when we started our businesses, um, I speak in general,
Mm.
I would imagine that most people plan and said, this is where I want to go, this is what I want out of my business, and so on. And then we get caught into the process of the business, which is a natural thing, especially as solo entrepreneurs. We don't always have the financial backing or funding to get people to do things that we don't really want to do. But I think as the business grows, and even as a solopreneur, we need to put that time aside. Um, there seems to be, there seems to be a culture of measuring hours, not efficiency. And I see that it's very noticeable when asking business owners, are you busy? And they say, yeah, I'm putting in a 14-hour day. And we seem to claim that so-called badge of honor with this answer. And I must tell you, I was one of them that was guilty of it. And to the extent of burning out not once, twice. So, how smart is that? But I learned an extremely huge lesson. That's why in my coaching, it's one of the first things that come up is how much time are you giving to yourself? Because it's very, very important, especially now as a business owner, to be able to take that time out, that reflection that you were referring to. Sorry.
Mm.
So I always say, one thing I learned from nearly burning out, and this was quite long ago, that the psychologist that I went to see said to me, she listened to all my nonsense, why I didn't have time. And then she said to me, okay, well, that's interesting. If you value your business right now and in the state that you're in, how good are you going to be to your staff, your customers, your family, if you are like you are now, and maybe go further, God forbid. So it's still, and sometimes it's still a working, and I do sometimes push it a bit because I'm a natural achiever. So sometimes we need someone to hit the pause button for us. But I'm extremely conscious of it because of what happened to me. And I test myself. I constantly test myself that less is more. So if you find that you've taken time out, if I can say not to think, it's probably be the most productive time of your business as a business owner. You're the person that came up with the idea of the business. You're the person that everybody's relying on you. You're the thinker. And I think also as thought leaders, which they talk about now, well, if you can't think, how are you going to be a thought leader?
Yeah.
So I think the one thing I learned out of that, and if I can share with other business owners and entrepreneurs, is that the most important appointment you can make with yourself, in your business, is with yourself.
Sure.
And if
Okay.
you don't make the time to make the changes you need, and more importantly, doing what it'll take to change, how are you going to change?
No, I sit just sighing because
Yeah, we're all guilty of it.
we just spoke about it just before we started up, and kind of in the same boat, managing 101 tasks by ourselves as solopreneurs, and at which point do we start outsourcing, which we probably should have done already. But I must
think,
be honest.
even not even outsourcing. I think just we need to step out of the noise of it. Leaders need to take time to get out of the daily grind and step into their role, as I said, thought leaders, because it's very difficult to think in the noise. And so for me, time to reflect it's not a guilty thing, feeling guilty thing, or a luxury in business. For me, it should be part of your strategy.
So it should be kind of part of your weekly goals, huh?
Absolutely. Must be part of your strategy of growing your business. You need to step out of it. It's that kind of, it's that kind of letting go, which is something very difficult for entrepreneurs to do.
I know. I was just going to say, I never let go. I often sit late at night, during the day, weekends, at a bar, wherever I am, these ideas come in. It's on the phone, putting reminders to myself. So I hear you. And I remember that day we had the chat when you posted your reflection post, and you had kind of said that's what you go and do. And I said, I also make time to go out into the country. But for me, I don't mind thinking a little bit, even if it's, it's not a solution right now. It's not like a client problem right now. It's rather my next, how am I going to gather my thoughts? How am I going to get this better? How am I going to be more efficient? Things like that. So I hear you. But I do sometimes also feel that just that dead break free from business thinking is sometimes what we really need. And that I think we do lack a lot, because it's so difficult for us to stop thinking.
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge. But if we look at it that it's in service of our business and those that we around us, it might make it a bit easier. Yeah.
So let's get on to some of the top tips then that you can share with us today as the professional in the space of helping entrepreneurs and business owners. And just how can some of us just give us 3 key tips that we can try and take back some control or time or self-reflection? What would you suggest for us today?
Okay, so 3 key tips to take back control. Okay, I've probably got quite a lot more. So a couple of them we've spoken about already, like make reflection time part of your strategy. It's not a nice to be, it must be. But there are 3 things that stand out very strongly for me. The one is to have a strong purpose in your business. Why? Because this is the reason. We need to ask ourselves the reason why we went into business. As we discussed earlier, you asked me what the purpose is of Dare to Be. So that doesn't change. My purpose when I started Dare to Be in 2015 has not changed now, irrespective of the circumstances. How I get to that purpose has changed. But that keeps you very strong. So that's in my control. And I need to focus on it. And how I get there constantly is changing. I have to retweak my strategy. It even gets me, who's not creative, to be creative. So I actually it stood out so much for me when we went into COVID, because those first few weeks, business had closed down completely. And I thought, wait, what am I going to do? I actually typed my purpose into the phone, and since March last year, I read it every single day.
Oh, wow.
And what it helps me do, it's not about whether I'm going to achieve what I want to, but it helps me think, okay, what are you going to do tomorrow that's going to contribute towards your purpose? It can be doing something on social media, it can be contacting a client, it can be anything. It might not be immediately income generating, but it might have an impact over the long run that's contributing to the purpose. So I think that's in my control, irrespective of what's going on around me. The second thing is to have a vision, because we know why our business exists, but we need to know where we're going. And even as a solopreneur, you must have a vision. If you have people in your business, don't keep the vision to yourself, share it. Because I've often heard people say to me, I say, what's your people challenge? And they say, oh, my guys are not on the same page.
Mm.
I say, do you have a vision? Yes. Have you shared it with them? No. Well, if you're not reading the same book, how are you going to be on the same page? So, and that's something that business owners can use to take back control with what's going on around us. How we get to that, where we want to go, that might also need tweaking and changing. So bring in your team. There's a lot of brain trust and there's a lot of creativity sitting under our noses of potential. So the direction, I'll give you a quick example, if I may. Okay, is Google Maps. We type in, we want to go somewhere. The first thing it asks us is where we're going. The second thing it asks us is where are we? And then when we're going towards our destination, if we're having if we do encounter an accident or we have to make a detour, we don't worry about it because we know that Google will just take us, it recalculates, it will take us on the detour, but it still keeps the vision, the end in mind. So we know that we're going to get to where we're going. Sorry if there's a noise here, the guy coming in with a weed eater.
No, I can't even hear it, don't stress.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So we need to do the same. Okay. If we need to take detours in that, what will give us some degree of comfort is keeping the end in mind. We're taking the detour, and so we are in control of the detour from our original strategy, and that's important. And then the third one is shared values, because that's how we show up in our business. That's really a big contributor to the culture of our business, because the culture of our business is how we behave. And our values, if we're really living them, not just putting them on the wall, if we're really living them, that's how we behave in our business, that's how we show up. And how well do we show up aligned to where we're going, to why we exist, and to our strategy. And I'd like to just slip in one thing. I know you asked me for three,
yeah,
but it's key.
I think I've written down 5 already, but yeah.
It's key to the success of business is communication, open communication. And especially with the pace of the world as is today, we need to be communicating more and more. And we have tools to communicate. Yes, we can't maybe communicate in person that we would like to. It shouldn't stop us from communicating. We have many, many tools to communicate, and it's so important that we just to keep ourselves in check. And every one of these things, those 3 things, purpose, vision, values, and communication, are all 100% in our control. And it's the only things that we can reference back to. When we pulled out of alignment, which we will be, by external circumstances and challenges, that I can guarantee, because we're human. But what do we have to reference back to when we feel we pulled out of alignment? So that's when we need to take that break, go back into those things that are in our control and just reflect a bit.
Okay. Awesome. I love those top tips. I will be summarizing those and sharing them too. So in a nutshell, as you've just mentioned, clear purpose. I love that. We also focus a lot on why brings meaning to your business, and it attracts like-minded people to your business. So yeah. Love that. Know your purpose. Vision, create a vision, and let everyone ensure your team, if you have a team, are on the same page by sharing it. Having values as well in a business is important, and also bringing these through in your business, even to the point of communication, which is our next point, and obviously continually keeping open communication. So just on to our 5th and final question for today, which I think was the one that I'm waiting for as a bit of a intrigue. And then you want to know what mine is. But if you could remove one thing or item or event in the world, what would it be, and why do you say so?
Oh, my word. There's one thing that comes to top of mind, but I don't know if I can say it on a live show.
Steve, this is about reflection.
And authenticity and honesty and open communication, to be able to have those tough conversations. Oh goodness, they'll probably put me on the bench with Rassie. I'd say, I'd say, I'd say,
Give it to
but
us.
seeing he was brave enough, I'll also be brave enough. I think if I look at the world today and the state of the world, the first thing but this is not what I'm going to talk about. The first thing that would come to mind would be politicians, and lead, because they're leaders. Yet we find ourselves in such a mess. Generally, I'm not saying all countries, and I'm not saying all politicians. So
But not
I
all
hope you don't. I
leaders
hope you
have
don't put my
direction.
address. I hope you're not putting my address on you, so they know where I live.
But let's be
No,
honest,
but
Steve, not all
they
leaders do have direction, right? So let's not, even though they
yeah,
may be leaders, they might not be the right ones.
yeah. They might not be. Listen, I wouldn't like. Would I like to be in their shoes? No. Especially now. But I think a lot of things that we see happening is it's not true leadership. And it's a lot of it is, I think it's a form of leadership that's what's in it for me. But it'll bring me to really what comes to mind is, and it's something that's very high on my value list. If there's something that I could get rid of in this world, would be disrespect and judgment. And the reason
I like that.
it's because respect is something I highly value. Sorry, excuse me. And I find that a lot of the problems that we experience in the world is because of lack of respect in our differences. Okay. We're not all the same. We won't all agree on anything. But if I don't agree with you, it doesn't give you the right to disrespect me. And I find that you see it on the news, and we're trying to make everybody like ourselves. And if you're not like me, you're wrong. And that is not acceptable. If you're not like me, you're different. You're not wrong.
Yeah,
and you have a
don't
right
judge.
to actually step into my space or not. So I think that it's about finding middle ground. And there's a word that comes to mind. There's also compromise. So if we need to get rid of disrespect and judgment. And we need to maybe just make more of a conscious effort to understand each other, especially if we've narrowed down to business what we're talking about. Do we understand each other, and how do we show up in our differences to achieve that common goal? So, and if we can't, then we must go our separate ways. But you cannot, it doesn't give you the right to disrespect me. So I think it's really about, that comes to sort of, relationship building. If we had that mindset and we were accepted it and we're okay, it would give everybody a chance to find their own tribe. And where do they fit so that they can work best?
I love that. And I think, I think in today's day, again, maybe 40, 50 years ago was different, is people have lost so much respect. And I mean, we see it from very young children to adults, and, you just wonder, where did it all go wrong? So the one item that I would like to remove,
I'm
ding,
dying to hear
ding,
this.
are cell phones. I don't want to have a cell phone. I don't want anyone to have a cell phone, because if when I was born with a landline and the TikTok is on the corner, I don't know. To me, cell phones have caused rift amongst people, information overload, quality time with people and family. And I just feel like, I look at the TV, it's like TV versus cell phone. No, cell phone. The only time a cell phone is really handy is when we're stuck on the highway with no petrol. Perhaps we can pop on the cell phone. But the reality is, it brings the community together, right? Because you're going to stand outside your vehicle and wave someone down and say, please help me, would you drive me to the garage to get some petrol? I know in terms of safety, it's not ideal, but that's how we used to live. We all had landlines, and even those little wind-ups that I used to have, I mean, so that's kind of 40 years ago. And I just, the value of it, because this little thing here just destroys lives. It grows businesses, don't get me wrong, but I think it takes away. And that's why I was so glad that you mentioned the point in the beginning, is that you've seen people come together, because I often see this thing sometimes as kind of breaking us apart. but in one way, it also does bring us together. But it's, yeah, for me, a mobile device. I actually have a gentleman that I know that's never had a cell phone and refuses to have a cell phone, and he gets by. Frustrates the living daylights out of us because we have to phone him on his landline. But you know what? He gets by, and we all have laptops. We can tune into social media when we have to. But anyway, so I wanted to just share that with you because I'm feeling that at the moment. It's very distracting.
So if I can, so if it is a distraction for you, but it's something that can be valuable, it's not getting rid of the cell phone. How do you make it that it remains valuable but not a distraction? So it's where we're putting our focus.
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying about the cell phones, but I think it's our own undoing. I'm the same. My cell phone distracts me. I don't have the discipline to not let it distract me. So when I'm focused on doing something that I have to give serious focus to, I can't even put my cell phone upside down on the desk, because if I see the light come on with a message, I'll pick. I'm not. No. But so what do? I can't get rid of the cell. I put the cell phone in my drawer.
But then it vibrates.
And then I put it in another room. No, I switch it on silent, and I put it away.
Yeah.
So I think, Megan, that's part of, I suppose that's part of the evolution that's taken place. If you look over the years, if we go back to the agrarian age right now to this, what do they call it? The connectivity era. Is it's part of us connecting. I suppose it's how we manage it.
We need to, like you say, we need to create boundaries.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think it was, I don't know on which program it was, but they had like a vase. So when you came into this family's house, you had to put your cell phone into the vase, kind of bowl or whatever thing. Because that was like, now it's time for family time. And those are, I think, the things, like you say, you've got to put in place. Otherwise, like you say, it will just rule your world.
Yeah, but then we allowed to.
Yeah. Well, then thanks so much, Steve. I think it's been an awesome session. We've gone over a bit more today, but that's okay. The more value we get, the better for all of us. So just want to say
thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really, really appreciate it. And then next week, we're going to be talking about websites versus landing pages. And please, if you did enjoy the interview, pop a comment for us, share it on to other people that may find it relevant in their business. And then we'll see you same time, same place next week, Friday at 12 o'clock. Thanks so much again.
I'm definitely going to watch your website and landing page. It's something I need to learn.
Okay, awesome.
So thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me and having me onto the show and giving me a chance also to just share. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.